Have you ever taken a job thinking it'd save you, only to have it cost you everything? That's what happened to me. I was just a girl, 17, desperate for cash, working at a little corner store, until the owner called me to the back room. Just 10 minutes, he said, but what he took wasn't time, it was my virginity, a price he called interest for a debt I didn't owe. This is my story, a day that broke me, a secret that ate me alive, and a fight to claw my way back. Ever trusted someone who turned out to be a monster? Then stay with me. I'm telling it all, unfiltered, and you'll want to see how I survived. If this hooks you, subscribe to the channel, because this isn't just my pain, it might be someone else's too. I needed that job bad. Can you imagine being 17, watching your mom scramble to pay bills, feeling like you've got to step up? That's where I was. No skills, no experience, just a kid with a backpack and a prayer, pounding the pavement for anything. Then I found it, a tiny store down the street, cluttered with cheap toys, snacks, dusty shelves. The owner, a guy in his 40s, looked me up and down when I walked in. "You want work?" he asked, barely glancing at my half-baked resume. I nodded, heart racing. Did I really just land this? "Start tomorrow," he said, and I walked out grinning, texting Mom, "Got it." That first day felt like a win. The place was small, cramped, but mine, my little corner of the world. I'd ring up customers, old ladies with quarters, kids with candy, smiling like I'd cracked some code. Ever feel like you're finally pulling your weight? I did. The owner, he said his name was Mike, hung around, chatting up regulars, tossing me a "good job, kid" now and then. He was loud, rough around the edges, but nice enough, brought me a soda once, said, "You're a hard worker. Who doesn't want a boss like that?" I thought I'd lucked out, steady cash, easy gig, a start. It wasn't much, minimum wage, a few hours after school, but it was mine. I'd count my tips, stash them in a jar, dream about helping Mom, maybe buying something nice for once. Mike kept things light, joked about my sloppy handwriting, showed me how to stock shelves faster. "You've got a knack," he'd say, clapping my shoulder. I'd blush, shrug. Did he really think I was good? I wanted to impress him, prove I belonged. Looking back, I wonder, was that the hook? Did I miss the bait in his grin? But then, I was just happy, too happy to see anything else. The routine locked in quick. I'd rush from class, apron on, sweeping floors, ringing bells, felt like a real worker, not just some broke kid. Customers knew me, "Hey, sweetie, got change?" And I'd laugh, hand it over. Mike was always there, leaning on the counter, watching the door, me, everything. "You're a natural," he'd say, and I'd beam, why wouldn't I? He was the boss, the guy who'd given me a shot. Have you ever trusted someone because you needed them to be good? That's where I was, blind, hopeful, clueless about the storm creeping closer. If this is pulling you in, subscribe to the channel, because it's about to turn dark fast. He wasn't some big shot, just a guy with a store, a gut, and a loud laugh, but he felt big to me. I'd catch him handling cash, barking at suppliers, and think, he's got this. I'd stay late sometimes, 5 minutes, 10, helping close up, earning a "thanks, kid." Mom was proud, my girl's growing up. And I felt it too. But those little moments, his eyes lingering, his "you're doing great" a bit too warm, I brushed them off. Why ruin a good thing? I needed the money, the stability. I didn't know I was walking into a trap, one he'd set from day one. It didn't hit all at once. Ever feel something creep up so slow you don't clock it till it's too late? That's how it started with him. A week in, he got chattier, too chatty. "You're pretty good for your age," he'd say, leaning close while I counted change. "Pretty good?" I'd nod, awkward, focusing on the coins. Did he have to stand that near? He'd laugh, pat my back, and I'd force a smile. Bosses do that, right? But it stuck with me, that itch I couldn't scratch. Then the requests kicked in. "Hey, stay a bit," he'd say after closing, waving off my gotta go. I'd hesitate, mom's waiting, homework's piling, but he'd grin, you're my best girl, help me out. Best girl? It sounded nice, but why'd my stomach flip? I'd stay, lock up, stack boxes, while he hovered, talking about nothing. You're tougher than you look, he'd add, watching me lift stuff. I'd shrug, tough's good, isn't it? But his eyes didn't feel like praise. Have you ever smiled through a shiver? I did, night after night, telling myself it was fine. That look, he had it down. I'd be at the shelves, reaching up, and catch him staring, not at the store, at me. Too long, too steady. What? I'd ask, nervous laugh, and he'd wink, just checking my stock. Stock? Me? I'd turn away, heart thudding, pretending I didn't see. Was I overthinking? He was old enough to be my dad, gross, but harmless, right? I'd shake it off, keep working, keep needing that paycheck. How do you ignore a vibe that's screaming at you? I got good at it, too good. The weird kept piling. He'd brush by me, tight aisles, sure, but his hand lingered once, twice. Oops, he'd chuckle, like it was a game. I'd freeze, step back, accident, yeah. But it kept happening, fingers grazing my arm, my waist. You're jumpy, he'd tease, and I'd fake a laugh, am I? I'd doubt myself, every time. He'd ask stuff, got a boyfriend? Grinning like it was casual. I'd mumble, no, and he'd nod, slow, like it mattered. Why'd he care? I pushed it down, needed the job, needed the cash, kept my head in the sand. If this is hitting you hard, subscribe to the channel, because it's about to get real ugly. I'd go home rattled, but silent. Mom'd ask, how's work, and I'd say, fine, hiding the knots in my gut. He'd text sometimes, good job today, and I'd reply quick, polite, scared to ghost him. He'd wait, till I was alone, end of shift, store empty, then get chatty. You're special, he'd say, voice dropping. Special? It didn't feel special, it felt heavy, wrong. I'd nod, grab my bag, rush out, but it stuck, his words, his eyes, his hands. Was this normal? I didn't know, didn't want to know. I was in deep, and he was just warming up. It wasn't sudden. Have you ever felt a net tighten so slow you don't see it till you're caught? That's how he got me. One day, he pulled me aside, end of shift, store quiet. You owe me, he said, leaning on the counter, eyes sharp. Owe him? My heart skipped, what for? You broke some stuff last week, he claimed, nodding at nothing. I hadn't, knew I hadn't, but he waved it off. $10, maybe more. Don't worry, we'll sort it. Sort it? His grin didn't match his words, and I stood there, dumb, nodding like I agreed. He kept it up, casual but heavy. You're short on cash, right? He'd say, counting the register while I swept. I'd shrug, yeah, I was broke, he knew that. I'll cover it, he'd add, but you'll pay me back. Pay him back? How? I didn't ask, didn't want to, because his tone, his look, made my skin crawl. Ever feel someone dangling a favor like a noose? That's what it was, help I never asked for, debt I never owed. I'd mumble, thanks, hating myself, sensing the strings he was tying. Then he set the hook. Come to the back room, he said one night, locking the front door early. Just 10 minutes, quick job. My gut screamed no, why the back? But he waved me over, all friendly. You're my girl, right? I hesitated, girl. Job, but followed, legs heavy, like I was sleepwalking into a trap. The door clicked shut behind us, dark, cramped, shelves of junk, and he turned, smile gone. Can you feel a room shrink when someone's too close? I did, stuck there, clueless about what he really wanted. I didn't get it, till later, too late. He didn't need me for work, he needed me for him. Ever trust someone because you're scared not to? I did, trailing him into that dim hole, thinking it'd be boxes or inventory. But his eyes, sharp, hungry, said different. I stood by the wall, arms crossed, waiting, while he paced, muttering about favors. Favors? My chest tightened, something was coming, something bad, and I was too deep to run. If this is gripping you, subscribe to the channel, because it's about to break me wide open. Then it happened. Can you pinpoint the moment your world flips upside down? It was late, store empty, just us in that back room. He locked the door, said it was private, and turned to me, too close, too still. You're a virgin, aren't you? He asked, voice low, like he'd been waiting to say it. My stomach dropped. How'd he know? Why'd he care? I froze, mouth dry, staring at the floor, didn't answer, couldn't. He stepped closer. That's your interest, he said, smirking. You owe me, and this squares it. I couldn't move. Have you ever been so shocked your body quits? My head spun. Interest. Squares it, but his hands were on me before I could think, pushing me against a shelf. No one'll know, he whispered, breath hot, sour. I wanted to scream, shove, run, but nothing came out. You want this job, right? He pressed, grip tightening. Job? This wasn't about work, it was him, his want, his power. I choked out a, please, weak, useless, and he laughed, relax, 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes, can you imagine time stretching into forever? He took me there, quick, rough, like I was nothing. I stared at a crack in the wall, tears burning, body numb, didn't fight, didn't yell, just let it happen. Why didn't I? Fear of him, of losing everything, of being the girl who'd asked for it. He finished, zipped up, patted my head, good girl, and walked out like it was Tuesday. I slid to the floor, shaking, empty, my virginity, my trust, gone in a blink. How do you breathe when you're hollow? I couldn't, not then. I stumbled home, legs wobbly, clothes wrinkled, soul cracked. He'd taken something I couldn't get back. Did he even care? No. I locked my door, scrubbed my skin raw in the shower, but it wouldn't wash off, him, that room, those minutes. I looked in the mirror, same face, different girl. What had I done? What had he done? I didn't know where to put it, anger, shame, pain, all slamming me at once. If this is hitting you hard, subscribe to the channel, because I'm about to drown in it. I didn't tell. Have you ever carried something so heavy you can't let it out? That night, I curled up, sobbing into my pillow, feeling filthy, like I'd sold myself for a lousy job. Mom knocked, you okay? And I croaked, yeah, lying through tears. I couldn't face her, couldn't face me. My virginity, something I'd held, maybe not sacred, but mine, was his now, stolen in a dusty back room. Why'd I let him? That question clawed me raw. Guilt ate me alive. Ever blame yourself for someone else's dirt? I did, over and over. Should have screamed, should have quit, should have known, my brain looped it, punishing me. But he'd cornered me, job or this, and I'd picked wrong, hadn't I? I saw his face every time I closed my eyes, smirking, smug, owning me. I'd shower again, scrub harder, but it stuck, his hands, his voice, his good girl. I wasn't good, I was broken, and it felt like my fault. I kept it locked up, no friends, no mom, no one. Who'd believe me? He was the boss, gruff, loud, nice, and I was the quiet kid who'd stayed late. They'd ask, why'd you go? Why not run? And I didn't have answers, just shame. Can you imagine hiding something that big? I'd fake it, smile at school, laugh with mom, while inside, I was rotting. I'd pass the store, see him through the window, and freeze, still had to work there, still needed the money. How do you face your own nightmare every day? I did, silent, sinking. Work became hell. He'd act normal, toss me a, hey, kid, like nothing happened. I'd nod, hands shaky, avoiding his eyes. Did he think I'd forget? I'd sweep, stock, ring up folks, all robot, like, while my head screamed. Customers smiled, sweet girl, and I'd choke on it. Sweet? I felt used, worthless, a shell. I'd count minutes till I could leave, but the back room loomed, dark, close, his. I was trapped, by him, by me, by silence, and I didn't know how to break it. Something had to give. Ever hit a wall so hard you can't stay down? One shift, he brushed by me, deliberate, grinning, and I snapped. Not loud, just inside. Enough. I couldn't keep breathing his air, wearing his mark. Could I stop this? I didn't know how, still scared, still broke, but I told my friend Mia. After school, shaky, I blurted it, he did something. Her eyes widened. What? I spilled, the debt, the backroom, the 10 minutes. She didn't judge. Can you imagine the relief of being heard? That's sick, she said, hugging me tight. He can't get away with that. Can't he? I'd thought he could, thought I'd let him. But Mia, fierce, steady, said, it's rape. Rape. That word punched me, made it real, not just my fault. We Googled it, laws, rights, help, and I saw, he'd broken me, but he'd broken rules too. Could I fight? Mia nodded, you've got me. That night, I wrote it down, what he said, what he did, hands trembling but moving. No proof, just memory, but it was mine. Ever feel a spark when you're lost? I did, small, flickering, alive. Mia pushed, tell someone bigger, but I wasn't there yet. Just having her, knowing it wasn't nothing, shifted me. How do you start climbing out? One handhold, and she was it. If this is lighting you up, subscribe to the channel, because I'm about to try. She stayed close, texts, talks, you're not alone. Alone? I'd been alone in that room, but not now. I didn't quit, couldn't yet, but I watched him closer, dodged him better. He'd smirk, I'd flinch, but inside, I was waking. Could I end this? Maybe. With Mia, I had a shot, a first step, shaky but real. I wasn't ready to roar, but I was done whispering. I couldn't keep swallowing it. Have you ever carried a secret so dark it feels like it's eating you alive? That's what pushed me to face him. Mia's words burned in my skull, he's not untouchable, and I clung to them like a rope in a storm. Could I really stand up to him? I'd been his ghost for weeks, haunted, hollow, jumping at his shadow, and I was sick of it. Sick of his greasy hands, his smug, good girl, his backroom stench still clinging to me. I'd let him take too much, my trust, my body, my peace, and I'd be damned if he got my soul too. I prepped like it was my last shot. Every late-night text, stay late, you're my girl, I'd screenshotted, fingers trembling as I scrolled back. Every time he'd accidentally brushed me, every, you owe me, he'd muttered, I'd jotted it in a ratty notebook, pages smudged with tears and rage. Evidence, patchy, shaky, but real. Could it hurt him? Mia sat with me, poring over it, texts, dates, my messy handwriting. This is power, she said, voice steady. Power? I didn't feel powerful, just scared, raw, desperate, but I held it tight, rehearsing words in my mirror, no more. What if he laughed in my face? What if he turned it on me? I'd face it, I had to. The moment hit like lightning. End of shift, store dead, he leaned on the counter, smirking. Backroom tomorrow, quick job, he said, like it was routine, like he hadn't already taken everything. My chest burned. Ever feel a no, so loud it shakes you? I did. I'm done, I said, voice cracking but firm, stepping closer, not away. He squinted, what's that? You heard me, I shot back, heart hammering. Touch me again, and I'm telling, cops, mom, everyone, with proof. His smirk slipped. Did he think I'd stay his puppet forever? I held up my phone, screenshots glowing. Back off, or you're finished. Can you imagine the rush when fear flips to fire? I felt it, shaky, wild, alive. He didn't crumble, tried to play it cool. You're crazy, he sneered, stepping in, looming like he could scare me silent. But I'd changed, his shadow didn't own me anymore. Try me, I repeated, voice steel, eyes locked on his. He froze, mouth twitching, hands flexing, then backed off, muttering, "You'll regret this." Regret? I'd regretted plenty, trusting him, following him, staying quiet, but not this. I turned, walked out, legs jelly but head high. Was it over? Not yet, but I'd drawn a line, and he'd blinked. If this is lighting you up, subscribe to the channel, because I'm not bending again. I couldn't stop there. Ever feel a truth so big you can't hold it alone? Mia kept pushing, tell someone who can hit him harder. I knew she was right, he'd slink back if I didn't act, test me again, and I couldn't stomach that. So I went big, the police. Could they help a scared kid like me? I wasn't sure, heard stories of, no proof, no case, but I had to try. Mia came with me, hands squeezing mine as we walked into the station, my notebook and phone clutched like armor. The desk cop, a woman, stern but calm, looked me over. "What's up?" she asked, pen ready. I swallowed. "How do you spit out something that chokes you?" "My boss, he hurt me," I started, voice wobbling. She nodded, "Go on." I told it all, the fake debt, the backroom, those 10 minutes that stole me. My face burned, shame clawing, but I kept going, showed the texts, the notes, every scrap I'd saved. Would she believe me? She did, her jaw tightened, eyes narrowing. "This is serious," she said, scribbling fast. Serious? That word cracked me open, relief, fear, hope, all at once. He didn't take it lying down. Next day, my phone buzzed, his number. "You're a liar," he texted, then called, voice thick with venom. "Drop this, or you're done, job, reputation, all of it." Done? I'd been done since that day, done being his. I didn't answer, showed Mia, hands shaking. "He's scared," she said, grinning. "Scared? Good." I took it to the cop, she logged it, said, "Keep away from him, we're on it." On it? They pulled me from work, safety, they called it, and started digging. Can you feel the ground steady when someone else fights for you? I did, even if it wobbled. They moved quick, asked more, took my stuff, built a case. I'd sit at home, staring at walls, wondering, would he twist it? Blame me? I'd pace, bite my nails, replay it, his hands, his good girl, my silence. But I wasn't silent now, I'd spoken, and they listened. Mia stayed close. "You're badass," she'd text, making me laugh through tears. Badass? Maybe, I'd faced him, faced this, and I was still here. If this is hitting you where it hurts, subscribe to the channel, because justice is creeping closer. Waiting was torture. Ever feel time drag when you're begging for it to end? The cops worked, but it wasn't fast. Days bled into weeks, questions piling. They'd call, "When'd he say this? Where were you?" And I'd answer, voice steadying each time. I'd handed over everything, texts, notes, my broken story, and waited, trapped in my head. What if he walked free? What if they didn't care? I'd see him in my sleep, grinning, looming, and wake up gasping, soaked in sweat. He fought it, hard. Cop said he denied it all. "She's lying, never happened." Lying? Those texts weren't dreams, his words, his threats, glowing on my screen. They dug deeper, talked to customers, checked the store, found a girl who'd quit before me, nervous but nodding. He creeped me out too. I wasn't alone, that hit me, heavy and sharp. Could my voice crack him open? It did, slowly. Your stuff checks out, the cop told me, flipping pages. He's cornered. Cornered. My shaky notes, my scared words, they'd pinned him. Then it landed. He's charged, they said, assault, coercion, ugly words that fit him perfect. Charged, not free, not laughing, not winning. They hauled him in, I didn't see, didn't need to, just heard he'd snarled, cursed me, till they cuffed him. Was it sweet? Kind of, bitter too. I'd lost so much, my innocence, my trust, but he'd lost more, his store, his mask, his game. Ever feel a wind that stings? I did, sat on my bed, staring at my hands, free but frayed. The store shut down, windows dark, sign gone. I'd pass it, heart pounding, but lighter each time. Mom noticed, you're quiet lately, and I'd shrug, not ready to tell her all. Mia knew, though, kept me sane, kept me moving. You ended him, she'd say, proud. Ended him? Maybe, I'd started something, at least. He'd pay, court, jail, whatever, but I'd paid first, and that lingered. How do you heal when the scars stay? I'd figure it out, had to. Here's where it ends, or starts. Ever wonder what it takes to turn pain into power? I lived it, he was my boss, took my virginity as interest in that backroom, left me shattered. But I fought, faced him, told the world, watched him fall. He's charged, gone, locked up, and I'm still standing, scarred but here. Was it easy? Hell no, those 10 minutes cost me everything I was. Was it worth it? Yes, because I'm more now. If you're hurting, used, trapped, silent, listen, you're not alone. Can you hear that? There's help, friends, cops, me right here. Don't let them win with your quiet, speak, scream, fight. And if you're blaming yourself, stop, whose fault is it when a monster preys? Theirs, always theirs. I paid a price I didn't owe, but I took my life back, and you can too. I'm moving on, slow, messy, mine. That store's a ghost now, and I'm not. If this shook you, subscribe, share it, give it to someone who needs it. We're breaking this together, one story, one voice. You're stronger than they know. Believe it, I do.